Hello everybody, I'm Michael. This is a review for Runaway. This is a spin-off of the Sammy Keyes series. It was published the year after book number 10, The Dead Giveaway. So, in between books 10 and 11. And I don't want to say that this book came out a little too late, but it is a sort of like a backstory to book number 3. That's the one it's most directly tied to, Sammy Keyes and the Sisters of Mercy. Now, if you've read that book, you know Sammy meets this homeless girl named Holly. This is her story. That's the premise of this book. It's a journal or a diary, whichever one you want to call it, that she was keeping before she became a runaway. So shortly before becoming a runaway, like her English teacher, I believe it's Mrs. Leone or Miss Leone, I forget which, called her Sammy by accident. No, Holly was forced to create this little poetry journal, that sort of thing, and she actually kind of enjoys it better than the house she's with, because she's with some terrible foster parents. Apparently this is the second set of foster parents she's had that have been just awful, because, and it's like partway through the book, it's more explained. She went through all the good ones before being sent to the bad ones, but this guy, as mentioned in Sammy Keyes and the Sisters of Mercy, gave her swirlies, just like forces her head into a toilet and flushes, and does it multiple times, and it gets this disgusting blue stuff all over her hair, and she's basically living in the laundry room, and she has to wash her hair out with the washing machine. And even though that's really terrible, it's kind of preferable for her to be disobedient and negative, because that gets her locked in a room. That means she doesn't have to deal with these people, because the father is really, really creepy. He's too touchy-feely with her, and the mom is just plain mean. And, I sort of felt that way in middle school, high school myself, where I felt it's like, wow, it's kind of better to be mean to people. That way they leave you alone. And so I get Holly's thought process there. And so Holly eventually can't take it anymore, and she runs away again. Apparently this is not the first time she's run away, because she's been in multiple homes, but this is the first time she's actually successful. And she runs away on a train, and it's kind of hard to find the train and get on a train, because jumping on a moving train is really tough. And to her surprise, it turns out that the train doesn't run by every day. It runs by every other day, 1.5 days, let's say, and it doesn't go in the same direction every single time. So she's only able to catch the third train in order to go out west. And, she lives on her own for a while. She has to steal food to survive. Fast food places, sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're not. Her problem is that, she is 13, 14, and so people see a homeless child unattended, they don't really let that go. Whereas if she had been 40 and homeless, people would mostly just leave her alone. I remember one point she has to connect herself to this older woman so she can get inside one of those shelter places. So the woman doesn't know her, the woman's not in her right mind. But by pretending this woman's her mother, she gets free food and she gets showers, and that's great. And I also remember her hiding out in a gym, which was really interesting, because they figure out that she's there, and she overhears the gym people talking to the police. And that's when Holly realizes she has to get out of state. And she goes to California, because she's imagining she'll be on the beach. And she has a couple of misadventures there, like the Los Angeles River, which is not really a river, it's just a big concrete thing. I think I've seen it in movies, right? That big concrete thing that's not a river. It was in the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie. It was in Terminator 2. So I imagine that's the one they're talking about, and she's trying to find a specific church. Also, just weirdness on the beach with how overpriced everything is. And she feels bad about, trying to steal a swimsuit, because it's one thing stealing food to survive, but stealing a $75 swimsuit, and she ends up stealing the wrong one. And, it's also different if there are other homeless people in the town. This book really goes into what it's like to be homeless. And the author's note at the back does say that she did sneak into a Greyhound bus in the cargo area to figure out what that's like. So the author did this stuff. Went to a bunch of homeless shelters, pretending to be homeless, camping out by herself in the wilderness and that sort of thing. So I would say it's pretty authentic. Oh gosh, I'm totally forgetting her name. It's not Diana, I don't think. It's Venus. It's Venus, right? There's this older girl named Venus. And again, this is just a house, like an abandoned house that a bunch of homeless people are camping in. And she kind of gets into a fight with this girl who's sort of her own age, and ends up leaving the house and going on the beach. Well, eventually there's a police raid on the house, and you know, it's a good thing Holly wasn't living there anymore, because she would have been picked up by the raid. And this one place that just gives out food for free kind of gets shut down. The people think you're just encouraging homelessness, whereas the woman's trying to help homelessness. And she's very belligerent when the police are shutting her down too. But yeah, so that town just had a big raid to get rid of all the homeless people. Holly manages to escape, and then she escapes to Santa Martina. We don't say the name of the town, but like 50 pages before the end, it's like, yeah, she's in Sammy Keyes' hometown, and that's where it really ties into the third Sammy Keyes book, Sammy Keyes and the Sisters of Mercy. I forgot to mention, Holly also likes doing a lot of poetry, because it was originally a poetry journal. I did like her poetry. I actually thought that was really good and interesting. It added a unique flavor. I feel like that's probably missing from a similar series, the California Diaries series. So this was written for older readers, like Babysitter's Club, but for older readers. So especially Sunny's stories, they're just dark and angry, and she's just mad all the time. And she's really grumpy. It's like, my life is terrible. Everything's awful. My mother is dying. Ugh. And whereas I feel like in Runaway, she had more cause to be upset, because she is literally a runaway, and, you know, slowly going into the backstory of what happened with her mom, because she feels safe writing it down, but she doesn't feel safe talking about out loud. And there are several steps to mother's fall from grace, but, you know, her mom did get addicted to drugs, and that just started a slow downward spiral, and she didn't realize that at the time, because she was just a little kid. It's sad, and her father dies in a freak tractor accident. There's kind of this nice, I don't want to say nice, but sort of a nice sequence where she sort of gets adopted by people on the farm, but the wife insists on calling social services, and Holly just runs away, and she feels a lot of regret, because you know, there are times where people would want to help her, and she doesn't accept that, and she wonders, why didn't she try to get help? You know, just second guessing herself. Also a lot of paranoia, obviously, because she doesn't want to get arrested or picked up by the police. There's another sequence where she lives inside a movie theater. So it's less of like a cohesive narrative and just sort of like a series of events. I liked her narration. I thought it was good. I especially liked the poetry stuff. The journal style entries work just fine. It was interesting. So if you really like Holly's character, I would recommend checking it out. It is a bit more serious, though. Like, we've had some very serious books in the Sammy Keyes series, but there's also a lot of comedy there. There's no real comedy, and like I said, there's no ongoing story, because, you know, most characters don't hang around for more than 20 pages. Holly, the narrator, is the only character who hangs around, because she's constantly moving so much. She did spend a fair amount of time in LA. I did mention she likes visiting libraries, too. Speaking of libraries, let's give a big shout out to the Forest Grove City Library in Forest Grove, Oregon, for letting me read this book. Thank you very much for sending me a copy of this book. I'll get it right back to you as soon as I'm done with this review, okay? And I think I am done with this review. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm not sure what I would rate this book. I did enjoy it more than the California Diaries series, which has a similar, like, narration style and, like, heavy thematic stuff. Yeah. It is weird that it's weird that this is the spin-off to the Sammy Keyes series. I was expecting like a totally different spin-off, but I can't imagine that there would be a spin-off starring Holly without it being sort of dramatic and heavy. Oh, and she really likes dogs. Dogs are the things she likes, and that really kind of ties into, you know, at the end when the family adopts her and they work at a pet shelter, and she really wanted to be a vet, and so that's kind of perfectly, you know, dovetails into her own life dreams. And yeah, and then there's the tragic story of the person who adopted her. I'm forgetting their names. You know, those two characters in that book. It's Meg and the mom. Meg and her mom. I am not seeing it. Anyway, Meg has her own journal that she shares with Holly, and the ending was something I totally predicted. Well, number one, you know what the ending's going to be if you've read Sammy Keyes number 3, but number 2, I totally predicted the ending, that she would mail a copy of her journal to Mrs. Leone to show that Mrs. Leone was a good teacher who did in fact make a difference. And that was kind of a nice ending. I also compare this book maybe to Dear Mr. Henshaw, which is also also pretty serious and in a, you know, a journaling format. Although this book I'd say is probably a bit more serious than that. Although Dear Mr. Henshaw is the big fancy award winner about divorce, and divorce is really tough too. But both parents dying is a kind of a little bit tougher, almost starving to death, and oh man, yeah. So it's kind of dark and serious, but I still enjoyed it. I found myself, you know, it took a while to get used to it, but after like 50 pages, I was used to it, and I did want to keep reading all the way until the end. Okay, now I'm finished with my review for real. Thank you for watching. You can check out my reviews for the other Sammy Keyes books. Please like and subscribe, and bye.